All right, somebody start typing in chat if we're live. We live?
Hey guys, it's Larry. We're live.
Hey guys, it's Larry. We're live on the Objective Foundations podcast.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to get on so bad.
You?
Yes. I want to go talk to Larry.
All right, let me check. I think it's live. Give me one sec. Okay, it's live. All right. Okay, so we would like to start off by putting forth what this is and what this is not. Neither one of us rigorously prepared for this. It is more of an informal debate or discussion over the topic of argumentation ethics. I myself will be the affirmative. I don't particularly care for argumentation ethics one way or another. However, we see it get misrepresented a lot, and we would like to try and put forth our best arguments for and against it, and then show maybe some potential other justifications for libertarianism if argumentation ethics is wrong. Essentially, I also am working on reformulating my own version of argumentation ethics. I will not be presenting that here today because it's not complete. Hoping Slater can provide me with some good critiques of argumentation ethics that I can try and solve in my own reformulation. Neither one of us really prepared like an opening statement or anything, but Slater, if you want to say anything first before I go into like the foundations of argumentation ethics, you can.
I guess just explain it first, then I can go into my main point.
Yeah, okay. So I think that there's some groundwork we need to lay here about what argumentation ethics is, what it isn't, and the presuppositions in argumentation, as well as the conclusions that we draw from these. So what argumentation ethics is a value-free justification for property rights, or rather, I would say it is a value-free proposition that anything other than property rights via libertarian principles is a contradiction and thus cannot be justified. This is not to say that argumentation ethics bridges the Izzat gap. It does not. It is, however, just to say that you cannot justify anything else because there are certain presuppositional norms. There are certain norms that are presupposed in argumentation. And to deny these norms, which just so happen to be the norms of the libertarian ethic of non-aggression, as the only way that we can come to a truth conclusion is via argumentation. And argumentation is defined as peaceful conflict resolution. If there is aggression, if there is coercion, if there is force or threat thereof, this is no longer argumentation, but rather brute violence. And the person engaging in brute violence has given up on justifying their position rather than just exerting force over the opposition. So what argumentation ethics intends to do is simply show that it is impossible to justify any other ethic through argumentation. Now, there are some distinctions I would like to make here. So you can come to your own conclusion about, say, heroin is bad, or like I don't want to use heroin. But in regards to argumentation, we're talking about specifically interpersonal ethics, as in there's multiple parties going on. I can come to the conclusion that heroin is bad for me, and I don't need to justify this position to anybody else. But in the realm of interpersonal ethics, these must be justified to other people. We justify these through argumentation. So yeah, and I will be using a concept called the universalization principle, which comes from Kant. I hope we don't disagree on this because I have not prepared a defense for it because it's pretty simple. And it is just that interpersonal ethics should be universal. If they are not universal, they are completely arbitrary and meaningless. For example, if you say all people, this does not rule out all forms of law contradiction within argumentation. However, it rules out what we call particulars. So saying no black people can have property would be a particular because it's arbitrary and non-universal. Whereas to say, well, nobody could have property, that is universal, so it doesn't violate this law. But then you go into the next parts of argumentation. I think on at least a formal level, this rules out any form of state action, as state action is inherently non-universal. Some people can initiate force and some people cannot. Some people receive the benefits and some people do not. So I think at least on a formal level, this principle rules out state action. But this does not rule out, say, somebody saying everyone has to drink beer on Sundays. It's a universal principle, and anybody who doesn't would be in violation of this ethic and could be retaliated against. That is where we get into the other parts of argumentation ethics. I may have missed some things. We'll go as we go along. We'll see. But that is the basics of our. Oh, I wanted to say, stop saying that self-ownership justifies property rights. Self-ownership is a property right. You can't use a property right to justify property rights. That comes later, right? So this is the justification for property rights, and it comes along with the justification for self-ownership, not vice versa. So if you say we have property rights because we own ourselves, you're going to fall into either circular reasoning or an infinite regress, because it presupposes, and it's begging the question, it presupposes that you have property rights for your justification of said property rights. I think that's all I need to say.
Okay. Yeah. So I think even assuming the principle you laid out, if we can still establish, so my basic argument, or at least one of them, or my main one, is that you can argue in favor of initiating force in a certain context and not in a different context. Now, I've brought this up with other people, and they say that it's similar to, or it just sounds like Bob Murphy's critique, which is it's only true during argumentation. But this is not what I'm saying. I think there's a clear distinction between Bob Murphy's critique and mine. So I'm not saying that it's true. I'm not saying that you're presupposing these norms during argumentation. I'm saying that if you can argue that initiating or peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in this context, in the context of me, arguing with you. Like right now, let's say I'm a statist. I can argue with you right now and say, okay, this argument right here, this is preferable to me. This peaceful conflict resolution is preferable to me. However, when it comes to whether or not the state should tax you, peaceful conflict resolution is not preferable there. I don't think you can make the jump from, well, you're arguing with me here, and you're presupposing that peaceful conflict resolution is good here. Therefore, you're presupposing peaceful conflict resolution is good in all contexts. And I think
so. Okay, continue. Sorry.
No.
Okay, so all right. So what I would initially say to that is that in order to do so, you would have to deny self-ownership. You would have to deny that people have the exclusive control over their facilities, the scarce resources that they employ, which is their body, which is another thing I wanted to mention. When we say scarce resources, or when we say self-ownership, what we're talking about is that all conflicts resolve as in regards to some form of scarce resources. When I punch you, I'm saying that, well, you don't have a right to your body. I'm punching you. You don't have control over your scarce resources. I'm exerting force over you, right? In the same way that we could have a conflict over who owns this phone. Self-ownership is simply stating that you have the right to the control over your body. This is presupposed in argumentation. And in order to say that taxation is sometimes justifiable, you would have to reject this during argumentation. You would have to reject self-ownership, because taxation would require that people did in fact not have the legitimate control over the right to the control over the right to control ownership over their scarce resources, them and the things that extend from this. I can get into how this applies to external resources in a minute. You would need to reject self-ownership, but self-ownership being presupposed in argumentation, or the right to control one's body, means that if you were to reject this during argumentation, you would be contradicting yourself. Also, they're saying your mic is kind of low, so
I can try and get a different one.
Is he low for everybody, or?
Because I'm on my laptop now. I don't know if my brother's on his computer. Don't be classist against me, guys. This is not nice. I could be trying.
Oh, also, we're gonna have a brief discussion, and a little Q&A, after this while he's figuring this out on intuitionism, as well as maybe we'll have a little Q&A, have some people ask some questions about agorism, because we're both agorists. While he's figuring this out, I'd like to say, I mean, me and Slater agree on like quite literally 99% of things. We're both agorists. We're both virtue ethicists. We both are tend to lean more on the capitalistic side of agorism, if you want to call it that. Yeah. But yeah, they're saying he is super low. They're saying you're super low. So, in regards to the Homestead principle, while he's figuring this out, I will use the Homestead principle as like a placeholder. There are, like, you could think of like a first possessor theory of property, as in whoever possessed the resources first has the highest claim to them, rather than a labor theory of property. These are similar, but not necessarily the same. However, the way I view things like self-ownership and homesteading, or any, like, the theory of property, a first come first serve type theory of property, are ways of are means of interpretation of the non-aggression principle. So the non-aggression principle is presupposed in argumentation, as in order to come to a truth claim, we cannot come to a truth claim if I'm exhibiting force against you. If I lock you up in a basement and I say I'm not going to let you out unless you tell me what I want to hear, you're not going to we're not going to reach a truth claim. Well, it's not likely that we're reaching a truth claim, right? Like, so argumentation presupposes the NAP. Well, how do we interpret the NAP? What is an initiation of force? Well, self-ownership and the Homestead principle, or any sort of first come first serve principle, is how we interpret these things. Because if I punch you and you don't have the right to the control over your body, the scarce resources that is your body, then can we call that an initiation of force? Just like if I were to grab a random unclaimed coconut, if we didn't have like this conception of a first come first serve basis, then there's no means of interpreting what an initiation of force is. And so concepts like who has the higher claim over these resources, or the highest claim, is how we interpret what an initiation of force is. If I was the first person to grab the coconut, and this is my coconut, and you come along and you want to take this coconut, and we must resolve a conflict, it'll come down to, well, I had the coconut first, right? So I have a higher claim to this coconut than you do. So it's just a simple, a simple normative principle that we hold in order to interpret things like the NAP. Doesn't Homestead principle presuppose property rights? I don't think it does, no. But Slater?
All right, yeah, I'm back.
All right, is that better, guys? Because I could hear you fine, but we'll say a few words.
Well, I guess I'll just start. Okay, so I don't see how. Okay, so yeah, I think that the whole point of my thing is that you're not actually presupposing self-ownership, because if self-ownership is true, right, then initiation of force is bad in all contexts, right? Peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in all contexts. That necessarily follows from a self-ownership ethic. So I'm saying that it doesn't necessarily follow from argumentation that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in all contexts. Therefore, you're not actually presupposing the NAP, self-ownership, homesteading, etc. Because I don't think you can make the jump. So, like, for example, if I punch you in the face, I'm presupposing a certain norm, right? I'm presupposing the norm that in this context, peaceful conflict resolution is not preferable, right? But that doesn't mean that if I punch you in the face, self-ownership isn't true, right?
Yeah. So what I would immediately say to this is that the part about argumentation as a means to come to a truth claim is very important here, right? You punching me in the face is given up on coming to a conclusion of truth. You're just exhibiting force. But if we want to come to a conclusion of truth, we have to presuppose the NAP, or just which I use SO and these other things as interpretation of what initiation of force is. But in order for us to classify something as a truth claim, it must be done so through argumentation. To reject this, what Karl Otto Appel calls the a priori of argumentation, you would have to engage in argumentation in order to reject this a priori of argumentation. You would be contradicting oneself. Now, so if you would just come up and punch me in the face, sure, you might be presupposing a norm, but this isn't a truth claim because you've given up on peaceful conflict resolution. So I have no reason to take you punching me in the face as evidence that SO doesn't exist or peaceful conflict resolution isn't still preferable, because you've given up on coming to a conclusion of truth. You are a brute. You don't care about peaceful conflict resolution, and in that sense, you don't care about truth. And so if we're talking in the context of justifying your beliefs to somebody else, if for example, I might think that the sky is red, and I'm justified in that belief. If I think that the sky is red, if I look up and the sky to me is red, right? And I'm justified in that belief. But if I want to impose that belief and justify that belief to somebody else, I must engage in argumentation with them to reach a truth claim about whether the sky is really red or not. So I can believe whatever I want. I can believe that the initiation of force is there's nothing wrong with it. But in order to justify that belief to other people, I must engage in argumentation. To come to a truth claim, we have to presuppose a non-initiation of force, and then to reject said non-initiation of force would be a contradiction.
Okay, yeah. So again, I would say that you don't have to presuppose a blanket non-initiation of force being preferable in all contexts during argumentation. So like if I'm arguing with right now, so I'm presupposing that in this context, between you and I, peaceful conflict resolution between us is preferable. I want to come to this to a truth claim through peaceful argumentation, right? So I would say I'm presupposing whatever norms are presupposed by peaceful conflict resolution in this context. But I'm not actually. But I don't think you can say that you're presupposing something like the NAP, which is absolute and applies in all contexts. Because I'm not saying that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in all contexts when I argue with you. All I'm saying is that it's preferable right now. I could say it's not preferable when I am starving and I see somebody that has bread. I think peaceful conflict resolution is not preferable there, but it's preferable here.
Yeah, so you can think that something is not preferable all you want, but in order to justify that belief to me, you must engage in argumentation. And when we presuppose this belief, if you again, like if you say I cannot argue, I'm not alive, then you're contradicting yourself. If you're engaging in peaceful conflict resolution and you're saying, well, I only sometimes like conflict resolution, right? Then this is, I would say, a contradiction, because what you're saying is, and again, so I would hold that these concepts, like in order to, you presuppose self-ownership when you engage in conflict resolution, right? So I exhibit the right to control my scarce resources, that is my body. In order to justify non-conflict resolution, non-peaceful conflict resolution in another context, so you can say, I want to tax you 10% on your income because X, Y, and Z. In order to do that, you have to refute that I am exhibiting the right to exclusive control over my body. In order to do that, you must do that during argumentation, which presupposes this right, which means that you can say that you don't exhibit it in all contexts, but in order to justify that to me, you have to reject the concept that is presupposed in argumentation.
Okay, yeah, I think we're getting to the crux here. So, my problem with that is, so the point is that when I'm arguing with you right now, I am not presupposing the norm that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in all contexts. Now, you can say, whatever.
Okay, hold on. Okay, justify to me that I don't have self
No,
ownership.
but that's not the point. The point.
It is the point. It is the
No, no,
point. It very much so is the point, because if you have to, in order to say that you don't care about peaceful conflict resolution always, in order to justify that to me, you have to refute self ownership.
Okay, sure.
In order
sure.
to
Okay, wait,
do
wait,
this,
wait.
so do it. You engage in argument. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't believe. I think peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in this context right now, where I'm trying to convince
Mhm.
you that peaceful conflict resolution is only preferable in one context.
Mhm.
But it's not preferable when the state wants to tax you to have free healthcare.
Okay.
Explain to
So
me how.
justify to me that I don't have self ownership.
No, but the point is that you have to tell me
But if
why
n-
me arguing there presupposes something like the NAP. Why-
okay, so us engaging in this argumentation right now presupposes that if we're going to come to a truth claim about this, right, we must do it peacefully. So it is presupposing the NAP,
no,
right?
but no. The NAP says that non-initiation of force is always preferable, right? But me arguing with you right now just says
Correct.
that right now non-initiation of force is preferable. That's all it's saying.
To come
Like
to
if
a
I'm
truth
walking
claim, yeah.
down this,
Hold on, yeah. But to come to a truth claim, you presuppose that the initiation of force is bad to come to a truth claim, right? So if we're going to come to a truth claim about the initiation of force, we have to presuppose that we're not using the initiation of force. So at the end of the day, even if you're not presupposing the absoluteness of the NAP, you're which I think that you are, because you're coming to a truth claim, and a truth claim is absolute. A truth claim that in order to engage in truth seeking, we have to presuppose this. And in order for you to reject this concept, is you would have to reject the presuppositional norms, that you would have to reject the actual concept of that why is initiation of force sometimes justified. In order to do this, you would have to reject the presuppositional norms.
yeah, sure, but I'm saying you're not actually presupposing these norms because okay, this I feel like I'm just repeating the same thing, so you can try and when you respond, you can try and go at a different angle. But yeah, I'm presupposing the norm that right now, to me, I prefer peaceful conflict resolution. But I'm not presupposing the norm that in all contexts I prefer peaceful conflict. Now you can say, okay, but no matter how you do this, if you want to come to a truth claim, eventually you're going to have to presuppose these norms. But I'm saying, okay, even if every single time you try to argue against taxation, you're only presupposing that argumentation is preferable, or that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable in that context. You're never actually presupposing that it's preferable in all contexts.
So now this is what you just said. While I agreed that your original critique was different than Bob Murphy's, I would say this is what Bob Murphy says, and it's that when what we're presupposing is that these things are only true during argumentation, then your critique is only also true. But but hold on. If we only have to hold on, if we only have to presuppose it during argumentation, but in presupposing it, we're creating a validity claim of these concepts. Right?
I'm saying,
and if you want to say that they're not always true, that they're only true in argumentation, the only way you can exhibit to me that they're not always true, you have to engage in argumentation to do that.
Okay. So I'm not saying that they're true. I'm not even saying they're true during argumentation. I'm not saying you're presupposing the NAP during argumentation. What I'm saying is you're presupposing, because the NAP says, okay, all peaceful conflict resolution is preferable as opposed to initiation of force, right? I'm saying that when I'm arguing with you, I'm not presupposing that all peaceful conflict resolution is preferable to initiation of force. All I'm saying is that in this context, it is preferable.
Yeah, I know you don't. Well, yeah. So, but in order for you to justify that, so you can think you're presupposing whatever you're presupposing, because you might not believe that all conflict resolution
but tell me
necessarily should be. Because we're engaging in peaceful conflict resolution right now, right? And so in order for you to reject this, you have to do it through peaceful conflict resolution. So you have to say, I don't care about peaceful conflict resolution whilst engaging in peaceful conflict resolution. But what this peaceful conflict resolution is presupposing is that I am exhibiting the right to the exclusive control over my facilities. I'm sitting in my chair, I'm talking to you, I'm breathing, my blood is pumping, and you are respecting this right by engaging in peaceful argumentation with me. You are respecting this norm, and in so doing, you would have to reject this norm to say that it is not always preferable. So, like, for example, I'm not necessarily I would say it's not necessary that these norms are true. I'm just saying you can't argue against them. Not that you can't argue against them. Obviously, that you can't form a justified belief against them.
Sure. Okay, but the way you present what I'm saying, so you present it as absolute in all senses. Like you said, you're presupposing that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable, while arguing that it isn't. But this is a very it seems like you're supposing the idea, or presupposing the idea, that you either believe in peaceful conflict resolution is preferable, period, point blank, 100%, or it's not. But I'm just saying that
No. I'm not saying. This isn't what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to come to a truth claim about the nature of conflict resolution.
we have to engage in argumentation. Yeah, sure. Okay, to come to a truth.
Okay, so come to a truth claim. Come to a truth claim that that I don't have self-ownership whilst engaging in argumentation.
I don't have to. My point is, I don't have to do that. All I have to do is say, look, I can come to I can argue something with you. I can attempt to come to a truth claim with you, but I'm not actually presupposing that conflict resolution is preferable in all contexts. All I'm presupposing is that it's preferable right now.
You're presupposing that you're presupposing that I have self-ownership.
Can you explain?
Yeah, I can explain. So, well, in order to engage in argumentation, we must exhibit the control over our facilities.
Wait, one
the
second,
peaceful conflict, right? Yeah, go ahead.
If is this only true if I'm presupposing the NAP and argumentation? Like, if I'm not presupposing the NAP and argumentation, am I presupposing self-ownership?
No, I would say that even if you're I would say that we are presupposing the NAP because you are presupposing self-ownership, and to presuppose self-ownership means you alone exhibit the right over your own facilities, which means that it would entail the NAP. I might reclassify my original statement way back. I would say that we are presupposing self-ownership, which entails the NAP. So
not the other way around.
I'd have to think about it, but no, I don't think the other way around.
All right, sure.
So we're exhibiting the right. We're exhibiting the right to control over. We're exhibiting control over our facilities, right? This doesn't necessarily entail the right to do so. Sure. But in engaging in peaceful conflict resolution, in order to come to a truth claim, you have to presuppose that I do in fact have a right to control over my facilities, and in doing so.
Wait, what?
Okay, so yeah. So if you aggress against me, things like this, if you initiate force, you've given up on truth seeking. You are just a brute who is engaging in force, and you've given up on the concept of coming to a truth claim. So in order to come to a truth claim, which we agree that must be done so in peaceful conflict resolution, this presupposes that we have a right to our facilities. Because if not, well, then there is... Again, there's no reason to engage in argumentation at all. And in so doing, you're also presupposing that you also have a right to espouse your ideas. And I'm presupposing that your right to self-ownership, that you are exhibiting the exclusive control over your body, and that you have a right to do so by not just coming over your head and whacking you in the head with a brick.
Okay,
I wanted to...
Sure.
I'm trying to remember what you said, but there was something I wanted to address that I can't quite remember exactly what you said. But I thought it was important. Oh, I remember. So say justifying the state again, I hold that interpersonal ethics need to be universalizable, meaning applicable to everyone. So we can say everyone has to drink beer on Sundays. And that's the ethical conclusion I'm trying to come to. But I can't say only Black people have to drink beer on Sundays, because this is an arbitrary. And again, I was hoping we wouldn't have to argue on this foundation, because think this is something we agree on, and just the normal arbitrariness of a particular interpersonal ethic. So in the realm of interpersonal ethics, these things are universalizable. So, and again, I think that things like taxation, any state force inherently is non-universalizable.
But
It is particular. Any state force is particular.
okay. Okay. So two things.
Specifically.
Let's even. I'm not going to concede the principle, but even if we do presuppose that principle, you would be wrong in saying that the state is justified in initiating force, and we're not, right? But that doesn't actually. But does that mean that doesn't actually mean that you're presupposing the NAP during argumentation? Because all that means is that you're.
No, hold on. That's not what I'm. That's not what. This is something different, by the way. What I'm talking about is just like the specific ethical the ethical conclusions that we're trying to come to. Like, say, if I want to come to the conclusion that taxation is justified, you're applying a. So if you were to say taxation is justified, but coming onto somebody's property and stealing something from them is
Sure,
not.
you're being inconsistent.
This is it.
But that doesn't mean that
Right. So so what this part has nothing to do with the NAP. This part is specifically about the specific ethical conclusions we're coming to. Right. This was something. This was a side note. But go ahead with what you were going to say.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure if this is analogous, but let's say I'm walking my dog, right? And my dog. I don't have a leash, right? And I'm walking back to my house. My dog's not walking back. And instead of chasing my dog and kicking it in the face and knocking it out and bringing it home with me, I go get a treat and tell them and incentivize them coming. I solved the peaceful conflict resolution as opposed to initiating force against my dog. Am I presupposing the norm that my dog has self-ownership there because I'm using peaceful conflict resolution as opposed to?
You're not engaging in argumentation with your dog. You're not engaging in argumentation with another volitional being, right?
But why does that matter?
Because you're not coming to a truth claim with your dog. You're just saying, well, I prefer that I not kick my dog.
But you're
right. So you're not. There is no interpersonal truth claim here.
Okay, but
so you're not seeking truth. That's the important thing here is that engaging in argumentation, we're seeking truth. You're not seeking truth with your dog. You just don't like kicking your dog.
But your reason for why arguing presupposes self-ownership is because you are recognizing the other person as somebody that has exclusive control over their scarce resources. You're presuppose, but the argumentation.
So hold on. The argumentation aspect of it is why this is presupposed. But if you want to say that you don't want to kick your dog because you think your dog has exclusive control over his resources, then that's fine for you to say that. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's true and these are ethics-bearing creatures. But I think that's more so in the realm of applied ethics than anything else. But the importance of engaging in argumentation is very important. You're engaging in argumentation with another volitional being who, upon which you have a conflict that you are trying to resolve. With another person, and in so doing, you are trying to come to a truth claim. Your conflict with your dog, you're not coming to a truth claim. It's just more so like, oh, do I want to hurt my dog or do I not want to hurt my dog? Do I want to entice him to come home or do I just want to kick him over the head, knock him out, and take him home? So it's not about coming to a truth claim in the scenario with your dog.
Okay, but even if I'll concede the idea that if you argue with somebody, you're presupposing that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable right there.
I don't think you're presupposing that peaceful conflict resolution is preferable. You're presupposing that they have self-ownership.
Well, if they have self-ownership, then peaceful conflict resolution is preferable, right?
Well, yeah, but I think the distinction is important. That what it is, the specific concept that you're presupposing is, and then what that entails.
Okay, so this is dependent on whether or not you're presupposing the NAP and self-ownership comes from that, or vice versa. Right? Because then I guess it works either way in the sense that you still get homesteading and the NAP and self-ownership, no matter which way you go. But I think it is important because if you say that you're presupposing self-ownership during argumentation, like why are you why can't you just say that during argumentation, I'm acting as if this person is a self-owner? That doesn't actually mean that they are a self-owner just because you have to presuppose a norm.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. It's not saying that self-ownership is necessarily true, but in order to say that it's not, you have to presuppose that it is. Because in order to come to the validity of the claim of whether self-ownership exists or not. So again, I classified very specifically. I'm not saying that argumentation ethics necessarily justifies the existence of self-ownership. It just justifies that you cannot argue otherwise. Now, this doesn't mean I think we can justify self-ownership, but this doesn't mean it's necessarily done so simply by engaging in argumentation. So you can say, and I don't have to actually think this person owns themselves. But in order for me to convince them that they don't, I need to presuppose that they do. And then when you presuppose that they do, and then you say that they don't, you're contradicting yourself. Okay. Because so like because the part here about coming to a truth claim, I know I keep repeating this, but it's very important. Because when you're disregarding peace, non-initiation of force, you are disregarding truth, and at that point you're disregarding justification, because this is all about justification and justification of an interpersonal ethic, and this all has to do with interpersonal ethic inherently has to do with control over scarce resources. Every single conflict can be dissolved to control over scarce resources, like physical conflict, right? Not me and you arguing about whether there's a face on the moon, right? But that's not a physical conflict. That's just like we're just arguing, right? Which also presupposes this concept. But in terms of coming to an interpersonal ethical conclusion, we are. I forgot where I lost my train of thought.
Self-ownership. Okay, but
well, we're always presupposing self-ownership when engaging in argumentation. But like the importance here is coming to a truth claim about an interpersonal ethic via argumentation.
Okay, so I think this
if you want, we're kind of going in circles at 40. We can move on to the next topic, because I think we're kind of just going in circles here. But unless you have something new,
sure.
I think I've pretty much exhausted what I want to say. But
okay, yeah. Can you can you explain why self-ownership is necessarily presupposed through argumentation all the time, as opposed to just me finding it preferable to assume that you're a self-owner, or to assume that I don't want to violate whatever, because like you say, you're clearly
even if you're just saying I find it preferable to assume that he's a self-owner in this context, that would still be presupposing the concept. It's like, at least for the sake of argument, right? I will presuppose that he is.
No, you're just acting as if. So I'm saying, okay, I'll try to phrase that better, because what I'm saying is, if self-ownership is true, then I think we both agree that there are certain normative claims that we can make that come from that, like you shouldn't violate somebody's property, for example, right? I think we can.
Yeah. So okay. So from this, from this, I would say that we can say, okay, we can't justify any other system, and this doesn't necessarily mean that we ought to have. This is not, again, it never bridges the is ought.
No.
I think that which is what I'm trying to do in my formulation. Through a different meta-ethical standpoint, but we can still form like a hypothetical imperative and say, well, since we're self-owners, we should do this, like an assertoric type thing, like hypothetical imperative. But yeah, so continue. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. So my point is that I think we both agree that if we have self-ownership, then certain norms follow from that, or if the NAP is true, certain norms follow from that, right? But I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I should clarify. I'm presupposing the norms, not self-ownership, because you can say that the norms. You can justify the norms in any. I mean, both of us, I think, we justify property rights and not from self.
Sure, you're presupposing the norms. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily entail that self-ownership necessarily exists. It's just that you can't justify against it without employing because I'm also presupposing that you have self-ownership. Right. And in arguing, you're also presupposing that you have self-ownership because you're exhibiting that you have a right to engage in this argumentation and come to a peaceful resolution. And in so doing, to reject this would be to, in the context of truth seeking, contradict yourself. And if you can't come to a truth claim about the nature of self-ownership during argumentation, because you have to presuppose self-ownership, well, then you can't argue against it, is just essentially what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like but again, this doesn't mean that these things necessarily I ought to respect somebody's self-ownership. I think that we can use like a logic and dialectical reasoning to come to like conclusions like this, but just for the sake of like argumentation ethics, it's not to say necessarily we ought to respect self-ownership. But in order to say we ought not, or form like some sort of ethic that disregards self-ownership, to come to a valid claim about this ethic, we have to do it in argumentation, presupposing the norm of self-ownership, or in some form, we are presupposing that the person I'm arguing with, to justify to them, I have to presuppose that they have that they have self-ownership.
Okay, well, I think then now we have to get into what self-ownership actually means, because
okay, so self-ownership means that you have the exclusive right to control the scarce resources that are your body. Everything is about scarce resources. Your body is a scarce resource. So a lot of people think that ownership entails from life and liberty. I think life and liberty entail from ownership, because in saying that I own the scarce resources that is my body, you can't come up and stab me. It's a violation of, that is an initiation of force. And we define the concept of initiation of force through the lens of self-ownership. And the same thing with, I actually, is weird. I don't really like the term liberty that much because I find it to be, usually it lacks like a solid like definition. I like to say, well, we have self-ownership. And in so doing, this entails everything else. This right to liberty, this right to life. But I don't think right to life, because I can cut off your toes, and that's not necessarily violating your right to life, right?
Sure.
I don't think so. So I think self-ownership is more all-encompassing, and that everything else entails from it.
Okay, but in argumentation and in attempting to reach a truth claim, let's just say, I mean, I get displeasure, or I get pleasure from engaging in argumentation. This is fun for me. And I like arriving to truth claims, but that doesn't. I don't see why that. I don't see why that necessarily presupposes that you have a right to control yourself, because and we both recognize there's a difference between just exclusive control and a right to exclusive control.
So the reason that I say the right to exclusive control, and the reason I say that this right is exhibited, is because by not engaging in force against you, and you're at least implicitly saying that, okay, I'm trying to justify to this person a truth claim, and in so doing, I engage in peaceful conflict resolution. So I'm at least implicitly recognizing that, because if I didn't, just bash me over the head and make me do what you want me to do.
It's actually fine.
There's no reason. There's no reason.
You find it displeasing.
Okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you find it displeasing.
But then that's
not in the context we're talking.
I'm not presupposing. I just find it displeasing.
Even if you're not initiating force for a separate reason, you most definitely are still presupposing it in the context. It doesn't matter why you come to this conclusion. It's just that in so doing, you are presupposing that they have a right to control the facilities that is their body. Whether you don't want to initiate force against them because it displeases you, whether you don't want to initiate force against them because you you like showing your intellectual superiority over other people,
That's the
and
real
if you just beat them up, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter why.
But okay, so that I feel like there's a jump here that I'm missing a step. When you say that arguing against somebody or attempting to reach a truth claim via argumentation presupposes the right for them to own themselves. Like why does me arguing with you presuppose that you have a right to own yourself as opposed to just I'm presupposing
Control over my body.
Sure, or just anything else. Like
Presupposing that I just okay. So I would hold that control is either legitimate or illegitimate. It's one or the other.
Sure.
And so for it to be illegitimate control, it would mean that somebody has a higher claim to this. Well, again, we've entailed that, first possessor, whatever. Nobody has a higher claim to my body than I do. I was the first occupier.
But does it
not necessarily homesteading, but just
because okay, well, why is that not necessarily homesteading?
So homesteading is like a labor theory of property, which I'm not like too well endowed on the difference between the two, but one is like Locke's theory, and then another is like the Roman theory. The Romans believe that, which I think I find them to be kind of very, very similar. But I would say that first possessor is better because like homesteading is about mixing your labor with, and I don't think your mind necessarily mixes its labor with your body, right? Your mind, you control your body via your will, right? Through your intellect controls the scarce resources that is your body.
Sure. Is there anything?
But So hold on. Is there anything else? One sec. So there was something else that I wanted to address that you said. I forgot, but give me a second to think about it. Sorry, I have a terrible short-term memory. Say something else and maybe I'll remember it.
About this topic or just anything in general?
You can say whatever you want. It doesn't have to be about this topic.
You know, I'm wearing your shirt right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Based?
Based
on Red Pill. Too bad you can't do an eye review.
It's not happening. It's never happening. It happens when I hit 1K on TikTok.
Oh, guys, you heard it here first. If he hits 1K on TikTok, he does an eye reveal.
I think I posted saying that once. Or I posted it in the caption. I don't think people...
Oh, yeah? I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. I can't remember what you said that made me want to say something. And I feel like it was important.
Do you want to go into why so let's say like why self-ownership in the NAP is like the only justification you can come from after self-ownership?
Yeah, okay. So I would hold that within the framework. So if we accept argumentation ethics to be true, I would say that within the framework of coming to a truth claim, and you can't justify the initiation of force through without refuting these concepts. I would say there might be other concepts that can fit within this framework. I just don't think they necessarily not that I'm aware of. Like I'm trying to so. If we then say, okay, so conflict resolution, we believe in peaceful conflict resolution. Well, then we have to set the terms for this conflict resolution, right? Who has a higher claim to this cup over another? So if there's two people and one of them has they're arguing over who owns the cup, we have to have a concept of property to determine who has the higher claim. And if say we use first possessor, we would trace this all the way back to, I mean, potentially hundreds of years to who proprieted. But anyways, like if we're talking about the cup specifically, the owner of the manufacturer owned all the resources, turned it into a cup, and then so you have the first come first serve, and then you own this resource. So if I pick up a coconut on an island, I own this, and then I can via contract transfer it to somebody else, title transfer. So in buying this, I transfer the title to it, the title to the receipt, the title to this red cup is in my name because I purchased it. So I have a higher claim. If you come along, you come into my house at a party and you pick it up and I say, hey, buddy, this was a BYOC, bring your own cups. Well, to come to the conclusion about who has the higher claim to this, we need a theory to interpret property rights. And like I said, I'm just using homesteading or first appropriation as a placeholder because I think that I think it does the job. I can't think of something else off the top of my head, but this isn't necessarily to say that we couldn't, like, there couldn't be another one. Now, HOPPA does say that this is the only one you can justify because there can either be an objective intersubjective link between a person and property, or else there can only be verbal declaration. And verbal declaration of I have property is A, arbitrary, and B, violates the rules of the a priori of argumentation. So maybe there's another concept that can fit within these confines.
Sure.
For now, that's what we have. So we can.
I'm gonna go get water.
If you want to,
if somebody wants to,
I will too. Then
ask a question or come on here and talk about agorism, or ask a question about agorism, you can DM Zane and I on Instagram or TikTok. We'll be right back.
Zane right now is like me when I'm high. Interesting.
All right, back.
Me too. Nobody's asking any questions, so if you've got any, and again, I'm only on my first read through of the book, and I still haven't read more and stuff like that. So I'm not going to claim to like know all the answers. I think I'm going to need to read this book at least 3 times to fully grasp it. But any like prima facie questions, I should be able to answer.
What Craig in the group chat is like, Slater's arguing for the initiation of force.
Which one?
Craig said that. I mean, you could just give a basic rundown of what intuition is.
Okay, so
basic justification.
So in the realm of moral realism, you have naturalism and non-naturalism. Naturalism holds that evaluative properties are reducible to like definable natural non-evaluative concepts, like what good is reducible to other things, not just this is good. Non-naturalism holds that it is not reducible. It's good is this undefinable concept. And when I say undefinable, I mean like an analytic definition for like what good is. And so it holds that it is not reducible. And I would say that is the main difference between intuitionism and every other metaethical standpoint, because every other metaethical standpoint either holds that they're reducible to non-evaluative statements, or they are, I forget what he calls them. They're either reductivists or let me look at the eliminativists. Eliminativism. So non-cognitivism falls under eliminativism because you're not making true or false claims about the universe. You're just making some sort of emotive expression, as well as nihilism, right?
Sure.
And then subjectivism, relativism, and naturalism fall under reductivism or reductionism. So intuitionism basically holds that this good is undefinable in other terms, just like and that just this is my analogy. I can't define blue. Blue is a concept or a phenomena that I experience, and when I say the word blue, I'm referring to that experience. In the same way that if I say something is good, I'm referring to in the same vein. So in the general position is that these intuitions are a priori. This doesn't mean that they are innate. It's not saying that we have innate ethical knowledge in us. It's not a matter of how we come to this ethical knowledge, but more so the reasoning in the intuition itself. He holds that we are prima facie justified in the belief of our intuitions unless we are provided with stronger justifications otherwise. So one form of intuition, I would say, an ethical, cognitive, moral claim is enjoyment is almost always, if not always, or at least sometimes, better than immense suffering. I feel like I can say that, and when I say better than, that is a normative, that is an evaluative statement. I'm not reducing it to any natural properties. It's not that I like enjoyment or I dislike suffering. It is that I'm saying these things I'm saying that enjoyment is better than suffering. What's Coda up to? He's laying down next to me on the right. Hey, buddy. Hey, Bubbers. Come here. Get up.
I have a dog? Oh, I do have a dog. How do you know I have a dog?
Huh? Who are you talking to?
Socialist girl said anyone else low-key concerned for Slater's doggo?
Oh, because you said about kicking your dog.
Oh. No, yeah, I don't kick my dog. I would never do that.
Yo, if you don't beat your dog daily, what are you doing? Come on, bro.
For real. That's how I get out of argumentation. I just kick my dog.
Is the debate over? Yeah, we're just talking about intuitionism now. If you have some questions, Hasib, you can hop in if you want. I can drop you a link. Nothing serious. We're just having a discussion on it. He barked in your empiricism debate as well, apparently. People remember that your dog barked in your
Yeah, well, it's just such a infamous debate. That's why.
What's in the solo cup? It's just water.
Nah,
for now.
It's not.
We might crack into some of this later. Maybe. Who knows?
You should drive down to Florida, and then we can have a party together.
Okay. What I can't because I can't come to your house.
True. My mom's supposed to talk to her doctor and try and get a vaccine in the next month or so. So in 3 months,
Word.
we can have a party.
Yeah. Or I mean, you could we meet in the middle and you stay in a hotel for 2 weeks, so to quarantine.
Well, I feel like I know my brother did something for spring break like that with his friends. They just got a house in Colorado, rented one for a week. So me, you, and Scott.
Dude, why?
So Scott can come.
Airbnb voluntary haven party. We were thinking about doing a meetup for the Mises University next year.
That's so fun.
Dude, why are people still calling Dan a fascist on Twitter? Oh my god, I hate people.
Dan the ANCAT fascist. Heralds. No, Dan is okay. So
boy.
about the whole fucking generic thing. Okay, people have this thing racism equals fascism. I don't get how you you get.
Well, I wouldn't even say fascism. I wouldn't even say fascism equals racism. You don't have to be racist to be a
No, yeah,
fascist.
I agree. Same thing with nationalism.
Which is
No, it's
which
all
is
a
really
brand.
interesting. So it's like people always talk about the Red Scare, but I think that there was also I don't know what the color for fascism would be, but there was also a fascistic scare, which was they were the enemies in World War II, and it just so happened that a fascist regime was responsible for the Holocaust. So all of a sudden, the entire system throw it out, which I agree with because I'm against statism and the initiation of force and collectivism and things like this. But that's why I'm opposed to fascism. I'm not opposed to fascism because Nazi Germany was fascist, right? If that makes sense. It's like
Zane is a confirmed racist. Is what's happening.
exactly. But I think the doctrine of fascism, and I think leftists talk about this all the time, how, the right's rhetoric is so good and how enticing fascism is and stuff like that. And I think that is because the doctrine of fascism, from like the lens of a statist, actually propounds like to a seemingly decent doctrine, in that it values fraternity, social welfare, and like a pride in one's nation. Without necessarily, like, usually typically like in the doctrine of fascism, not necessarily like how it's existed, like a non-interventionism. You know what I mean? So like the doctrine of fascism, I would say, is enticing because from the lens of like a statist, it seems like an enticing doctrine. Not because they have like a they're like, they can appeal to people's racism. That 100% plays into it in the way fascism manifests. But like ethnostatism and cultural homogeneity and things like this, I could be mistaken, but I don't think they are necessary for fascism, at least like inherently within the doctrine of what fascism is.
Yeah, I remember.
Look at me defending fascism. Not defending fascism, by the way. I'm not defending it. I'm just sorry.
No,
let me
Zane's a
re-clarify that.
Zane's a fascist. Anytime like somebody, I see this with like fascists and paleocons or just conservatives in general. Like I know Paleocon Justin, if you know him. Hate that guy. He commented like anarchism is impossible. And then I said, I replied with like me when I'm dumb. And then he was like, explain to me like why it's possible and why like throughout human history, every single time, people tend to form states. Like as if that's a debunk of anarchism.
Mm-hmm.
Like people do this. So yeah, my point is just like,
well, somebody commented on one of my posts about the whole H3 democracy is failing, and somebody said, and he was clearly a libertarian. He was like, okay, if democracy is failing, what are your guys' alternative? And no, you can't say anarchism. And I was like, anarchism.
well, I'm gonna say anarchism. I can say
it was like you have to justify to me non-dogmatically why that's not a response.
Yeah, so my point is just like these kinds of people, they tend to always do like an argument from like a naturalistic fallacy and like an argument from history. I remember I was in a Discord and I was arguing with these conservatives about like why like the idea that people tend to congregate with their own racial groups, stuff like those kinds of things. Like why does that matter? So like my basic argument was like, so there are these two premises which I think are fairly acceptable. One is that you can't make prescriptive claims from like basically
Descriptive claims.
Yeah, you can't say people tend to act like this throughout history, therefore it's good that people tend to act like
Based off of off of
like you
I
can't
would
make
say
an
that's
argument
even a
of
well that's almost like a inductive what's it I wouldn't like a just the kind of the problem of induction, right? Like, okay, so this has happened in that past, so it's necessarily happened again. I would also say
Well,
it's
not
just a
even that it
general
will happen.
problem of
But I mean that's
that.
part of it. But that it should happen.
I would say like, oh yeah. I mean that's very clearly a
fallacy.
yeah, and also I think this also in just the way it would happen again part is a complete, and this is why I love Mises so much, and the one thing Karl Popper got right, which was the problem of historicism and using history as a means of understanding not just specific points in history and the things that happen, but the things that are intrinsic to the nature. Like just because something happened in history, or even if there was a trend of things happening in history, doesn't necessitate that this is the way it will always be or always has to be. This is nothing other than how things happened to manifest at specific points in time in history. Very true, Kantbot. So, are you good, buddy?
Oh shit, my bad. I didn't know I was muted. I was just saying I want to read theory and history. But yeah, so that's my first premise, that you can't get, you can't say that this is an
You want me to read it? You want me to read it to you?
right now, the whole book? Okay.
Yeah. I'll read you the whole book right now.
So my first premise is just you can't get an ideal or a normative claim from, this is how humans tend to act or have acted in the past. Or even that it's human nature. And then my other claim was that my other premise is that we should build an ideal society, or our ideology of what society should look like should be based on what is the most ethical system. And they accepted both of these premises, and I think both of them are pretty non-controversial. And then my thing is just, okay, so if you accept those two premises, then how can you go and say, well, since humans in the past tend to be collectivist, or tend to be statist, or tend to prefer ethno-homogeneity, that therefore we should have a society, our ideology should be based around the society or based around the idea that we should form those kinds of societies. It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't follow.
Yeah.
And I see.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's also kind of a naturalistic fallacy as well.
Yeah. Obviously, like, just because, like, even if it is in our nature to do something, that doesn't mean that it's good. That we should build a society off of that. Because obviously, you can act against your nature. It's in your nature to eat. You don't have to eat. No, I mean, you'll die.
Yeah, I agree.
You won't die if you're not.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Dude, I don't like when I don't like this camera angle. When I tie my hair up, it makes my hairline look so weird.
You're just ugly, is the thing.
I know, it's true. I am very. I need to shave, that's for sure.
How much leftist theory have you read?
Me?
I don't know.
Wow.
You just said it, but
Slater, you can answer, then I'll answer.
Principles of Communism. Horrible book. Made me want to shoot myself. And I'm reading Wage, Labor, and Capital and Value, Price, and Profit right now. And then I'm gonna read Socialism, Utopian Scientific, and then Capitalist Realism. So not much. I mean, I haven't read many capitalist theory either. So you can go, Zane.
Yeah, he's more of a philosophy guy. So I've read State and Rev, Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, left-wing communism, and infantile disorder. Some essays by Bakunin. Mutual Aid, Fields, Factories, and Workshops, Conquest of Bread, Wage, Labor, and Capital, Value, Price, and Profit. And then I did like not saying I'm like 100% paying attention to every single word he was saying, but I did like a skim read through of Capital Volume 1. And there's probably like some more, but not that I can think of off the top of my head.
I have a question about the LTV. because I don't really know anything about it. But just the idea, if somebody concedes that something can have use value without having labor and put it into it, like doesn't that just concede that, like something like things obviously have use value without having labor being put into it? Do I see
Well,
an
see, this is why I hate this entire debate. Is because somebody can concede that, and without giving up the Marxian law of value, because his law of value is specifically talking about commodities, and by definition, the way he defines a commodity
something that
is that it has labor in it.
Okay.
It's something that has labor in it. So, you can critique it on the grounds of, well, a theory of value should be a general theory of value, not just applicable to essentially you could try and get them to justify why we value commodities in a different way than we value other things.
Sure.
Right? But this isn't necessarily a critique of the labor theory of value itself, but more so it as a general concept of what value is. Because again, they define it as being applicable to commodities only. So if it doesn't meet his definition of a commodity, then it doesn't apply. But again, I would just attack that on grounds of a theory of value should be able to explain why all things are valuable.
Scott just called me and then he said pick up, as if I'm not. Does he not know we're streaming?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, still pick up.
Do you guys have any favorite philosophy books or philosophers? I really like Michael Huemer right now. Like in terms of like contemporary stuff, I really like Michael Huemer. And my favorite of all time is probably Aristotle. So big fan of Aristotle. Big fan of Huemer. And those would probably be like my two top number two top two right now. Huemer and Aristotle.
FH
And
Brown.
and Zeno,
And
the pre-Socratic.
yeah. I really want to. Do you have Appearance in Reality yet? Did you buy it, or are you?
I've been trying to find a good copy of it, and they've all been so expensive. And when they're not expensive, they're the ones that PI specifically told me to avoid.
Yeah, he's really picky about that kind of stuff. I don't think you are, but either way, it's because Scott got it and he wants to read it with me and PI.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just read it on EPUB on online,
but yeah, it's just not even because I appreciate. I don't know about you, but like philosophers tend to suck at writing. There are very few throughout history that are like amazing writers.
If you think philosophies are bad at writing, which I would agree with,
yeah.
just wait till you read Econ, dude.
Yeah, I heard like everybody is garbage. Hoppe is decent.
Except I will say Mises post like his first few books, so like Economic Calculation, Socialist Commonwealth, Theory of Money and Credit, hate them. How they're written. Anything post Human Action, in my opinion, phenomenal works.
In terms of like writing.
Like yeah, in terms of writing, like I literally have read I pick up and read parts of Human Action out of pure enjoyment.
I do the same
and Theory and History
with Bradley with Appearance in Reality, because I was gonna like there are very few philosophers throughout history that are like just amazing writer. Like they're like Schopenhauer is just beautiful. F.H. Bradley is really nice, but so like in Appearance in Reality, in the appearance section, it's just him like doing Zeno and just destroying what everybody thinks reality supposedly is like. And the writing there is decent. I mean, it's more funny than anything because he jokes like he shits on materialists a lot. Like he calls them like mentally disabled. But in the reality section, it's like he's like painting a picture or like a portrait or a painting of reality, and like just taking like it's beautiful. And I feel like that's lost a lot in like contemporary philosophy, like just writing well, which I guess is it's whatever. I mean, I prefer like so there's a thing about like, do you want somebody to write something beautifully and poetically, or do you want them to just tell you what it is? Because like when you read, like for example, with Rand's metaphysics, like the thing is like always in terms of like PI's critique, it's like, oh, you're just misinterpreting her work. Well, she's poetic a lot at the time. I mean, she's a writer, like at heart, she's a novelist. So it's understandable. So like it's like for me, I want you to tell me exactly what it is, and then you can summarize or write an addendum in a poetic way, because I just love reading that. And also like
Yeah. So another thing I noticed is, and I know this even today probably still really, really frustrates you, is people hate Ayn Rand for the sake of hating Ayn Rand.
it's the worst.
And they have
So annoying.
most of them probably have no idea about her ideology other than her political philosophy.
Or like selfish.
And or selfish, and they don't even know a lot about her political philosophy. They're just like, oh, she thinks selfishness is good. She's an evil person. Bad. Ayn Rand bad. Which I like, as somebody, I was like, these guys are making me want to become a Randian.
Yeah, it's this is actually, I said this a lot, but this is one of the, because when so many idiots hate somebody, it just makes you like, okay, so this person probably is right or has some insights, because all these idiots hate them. But yeah, the like unjustified, like that person that made that video on economics in one lesson. That's
Oh
so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. He was like,
doubt
Ayn
him.
Rand. Okay, but here's the thing. So on the very front of the book, it does in fact have a quote from Ayn Rand. On the back, it has a quote from F.A. Hayek, from Milton Friedman, from Thomas Sowell, and from Ludwig von Mises. Like, undeniably, some of the most influential economists of the last
Especially
150
Hayek.
years, save for Keynes, especially Hayek and Milton Friedman. And he's just like, oh, Ayn Rand, like, book bad. Brit bongs, am I right?
At first, I thought it was that guy. I don't know if you saw that guy that made that video on the ECP, that like British guy on TikTok. It was embarrassingly bad. Oh, I did want to ask you a question.
They usually are. This is why I don't engage with leftists. But
So about I was watching actually the video series that Swift posted in the what to read first section about just like the like 5 main economists in the Austrian school. Is like Menger, Bauer, Mises, Hayek, and Rothbard. And in the Mises section, he talks
and
about.
And then I would say like below that you've got like Kerzner, Lockman, and like maybe probably Kerzner and Lockman would be like just below them.
Yeah, Lockman did a lot on like entrepreneurship, right?
Kerzner. Lockman did stuff on like capital and like a lot of neoclassical critiques. But Kerzner was known for like one of his books, which I have somewhere. It's called Competition and Entrepreneurship.
All right. But yeah, so he talks about how after he like originally made his calculation critique against socialism, he also like went on to talk about like how this exists, at least to a lesser extent, in like whenever the government gets entrenched, I think it was in Bureaucracy, his book, about how calculation critique also applies to at least to a lesser extent, but it still applies to.
Yeah, so I would say that I think it's definitely true. Let me see. I haven't read Bureaucracy yet. Let me see if he has let me look through the chapter titles and see if I can find something. Profit management, bureaucratic management, public bureaucratic management, private, social and political implications of bureaucratization, psychological. Let's go to 74. That seems enticing. Philosophy, bureaucratic complacency. Yeah, I don't see anything that's like sticking out to me, but I find it's very interesting. Mises did, I would say, F.A. Hayek did more on economics specifically. He got into sociology in his later years, and they're probably like some of his worst works. But Mises was a philosopher in a sense through economics. He was a sociologist. He was also very interested in obviously the political economy through the lens of a praxeologist and like the non-economic outcomes of this. What do you mean?
Don't do the voice. Do you do a voice when you read something? Socialist girl.
Oh, my Brit. No. She was talking about my Brit Bonger voice.
He made room for belief in this. I grew up more on econ than Mises. Yeah, Mises was more like he focused more on methodology than he did like pure economics, right?
Hayek wrote more on econ than Mises. Smoking crack. Okay, when I mean like so Mises has theory of money and credit and human action. And obviously economic calculation, socialist commonwealth. And then I wouldn't call like socialism necessarily like specifically, but like when we look at Hayek, you've got all of his essays. You've got individualism and economic order. You've got prices and production. You've got what's that? The pure theory of capital. I don't know. Like a lot of Mises's stuff, which I love, is like you've got bureaucracy. You've got omnipotent government. You've got socialism. You've got what else? I mean, I am a Misesian at heart, dude. So I'm not saying like Hayek is better than Mises or anything. I just think Mises was more well-rounded than Hayek was. Hayek, for the most part, wrote on economics. And then again in his later years, like sociology and stuff like that. Why am I blanking right now? Theory and history, again, not specifically an economic book. It plays into it. The ultimate foundation of economic science and theory and history and epistemological problems of economics, while they are in regards to economics, they're mostly epistemology books. You're forgetting a lot of Mises' work. What am I forgetting? Like I'm like
all
his economic, like pure.
Still, the Nazis in the USSR.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I say, I wasn't saying it as a slight to Mises at all. I just think as far as like published body of work, Hayek had more on econ. Now I think Hayek was also wrong more than Mises, but who's better, Hayek or Mises at boxing? Dude, Mises would clap Hayek, bro. He was like 30 years older, but
how tall was Mises? He's either really tall or really short.
Definitely short.
Yeah.
He's 5 foot. Oh wait, no, that's Beethoven. Sorry, Ludwig von Mises.
You confuse the two.
No. I typed in Ludwig von and like the Google search. He was 5'8" ish.
Oh well, I guess I was wrong.
So in between, I guess. Now Milton Friedman was like 5 foot flat. He was a midget.
Oh my god. Harrison
What?
posted on Twitter, Marxist class analysis after TikTok libertarians say that the capitalist mode of production isn't capitalism. And it's like Thanos like withering away.
Wait, say that again?
Marxist class analysis after TikTok libertarians say the capitalist mode of production isn't capitalism. It's like a gif of like Thanos withering away.
I feel like nobody ever talks about like in debates and stuff about Marxist class analysis. I'd actually like to set up something about that because I have some interesting words to say about Marxist class analysis. For sure. But that hardly ever gets like contended and brought up. But Milton Friedman is so hot, bro. So true. Too bad he was a statist. Dude, my dog just farted on me. Dude. Leftism is just a joke. I agree. I literally, I just, and I mean it like I'm gonna stop while I'm ahead.
No, keep going.
No. Yeah. Oh, by the way, hold on. Swift. This is Kerzner's biography on Mises. And it just goes through like his life, and then as well as him as an economist and stuff like that. I haven't read it yet though. And there's another one that I have called The Meaning of Ludwig von Mises, and it's a compilation of essays by like students of Mises and stuff. There's some Kerzner in there. There's some other people on like just his general contributions to philosophy, sociology, economics, stuff like that. Is what Doc released yet? Oh, add to the doc then, Zane. Plenty of room for class analysis. Yeah, I will when I have time. I find it hard to sit down and write about things cogently. Is that the word? Like I'm not the best writer. So nobody has any questions on agorism or intuitionism or anything?
Which one? Writing a bunch. Oh, the Marx, the Contra Marx doc.
I thought it was just one doc. How do I get access to the ones you've already released? Because I'm trying to learn. Is it paid? No, it's not paid. I would say join the Austrian Economics Discord. Our boy Swift here has put so much work into filling a massive library of information in there.
Do you want to end this soon?
Yeah, we can. You want to play some CS?
Yeah, sure.
All right, guys. We're gonna head out. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming by. This is Discord in someone's bio. Also, congrats Quantum on leaving the TikTok that makes. I'll give you a link real quick. I think I have invite perms. There you go. It's not a permalink, so stream CS. I would, but my internet's been bugging the last couple days. I still have to. If you want like a stream CS, Zane, I'm begging, bro. Do you follow on Twitch? I stream on Twitch.
Everyone
most
follows
of the
Zane
time
on Twitch, guys. Get him to 1,000?
Yeah. When I get to 1,000 followers on Twitch, I'm giving away 100 copies of Economics in One Lesson. All right. Well, for those of you in here that might not be, here's the link. All right. I might go live tonight. Who knows? But we are gonna end this stream. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming by.
Goodbye, everyone.